finally got everything done. I've tried recording this video like 3 times and it just keeps messing up. But the last time I tried recording this, it finally kind of worked. So I used that, pieced together the rest. But anyways, let's get to some tips. So first off, get there the day before. I know you're going to have a little bit of extra time. You probably won't have very much to do, but you'd rather be a little early with a little time to start thinking about it and start talking to other people than get there trying to get there an hour before or risk getting there late. Neither of those are good. A huge portion of this course, actually I would say all of it, is dedicated to attention to detail. So from the moment you are there and till you leave, they want to always be looking at you and making sure you pay attention to everything, whether it's something they say, something they told someone else to tell you, or paperwork that says what you're supposed to do. So even though the course starts technically on in-processing day, the attention to detail should start before then. So make sure before you get there, you have everything covered. You don't want to get there and not have your stuff together, not have what you're supposed to have. That's why I recommend getting there the day before. You can go over all that one more time while you're there with all the people that are in the course. If by chance you missed out on information but someone else had information, that's the time that you can kind of collaborate, make sure you have all your stuff together. I mean, this is a real course. It's a real Army course, so it doesn't matter if you're a cadet in ROTC or you're an enlisted member, or if you're an officer in the Army or the Air Force, doesn't matter. This is a real course. They're going to treat you like adults, but don't take that as like some just giving you a bunch of playroom. They're going to treat you like adults, but they're going to expect results. So don't mess around, don't take advantage of it. Let's get some more tips going.
Hey guys, it's ShadowFlyer. In my last few videos for Air Assault, I went over my experience and just kind of what to expect and how things are going to go. For this video, I want to be solely dedicated to bringing you tips for how to prepare or how to get through it a little bit easier if you're going through it. So before you come, there's a few things you should do and there's a few things you should bring. But I know one of the biggest things that beforehand gets people is thinking they need to study. And the thing about this course is there is no good reason that you need to come and study beforehand. If you really need to get that certificate that says that you were the honor graduate, or saying you got the best grades in the class pretty much, that the one person in the entire class that gets that, if you want to go for that, then okay, maybe studying beforehand might help you. Or if you're just terrible at studying, maybe a little studying beforehand is okay, but there's no need to. You don't need to get an A on any of these tests. All they need you to do is pass. Your grades make no difference. If you get a B on every test, if you get an A on every test, the only time your test grades matter is if you fail the test or if you get pretty much 100% on every test and you become the honor graduate. If it's not one of those things, doesn't matter. So there's no need to study beforehand. If you do want to study beforehand, I can give you the notes from Air Assault and I'll put them in the very end of my video if you decide you want to go for honor graduate or if you just decide you want to study anyways. But I'm telling you, there's no real reason you need to do that. As for the book itself, especially if you like go online and find the book for Air Assault, don't study that. Do not study it. You can read it and get like kind of a general idea of what Air Assault is and everything, but don't study it because the information changes and you don't want to memorize outdated information, and there's a lot more information than you need to know for Air Assault. When you get there, they'll give you your booklet and they'll put your notes in the back of the book. That's all you need to know for that class, is the notes in the back, which is what I'll put at the end of the video. But all the other diagrams and information in the thick part of the book, don't memorize it because you don't need to. They do not care if you know it. They want you to have a general idea, and then the specific information they want you to memorize, they will give to you. They give you everything you need to know in class, and they will make sure you know it. There are always a few people that fail it, so if you think you might be one of those people that's just absolutely terrible at studying on the spot and you need lots of time in advance, then okay, I'll give you those slides in the end of the video. But that's it. Just use the book for basic understanding, study the notes in the back, and if you do that at Air Assault, you'll be fine. There's no mandatory reason to study beforehand. When you are packing everything, make sure you have at least one extra uniform. So you'll have one uniform, like if I'm talking about the camouflage uniform primarily. So my ABUs, Army's OCPs, soon to be our OCPs, but you'll have one pair that you have to wear, and you'll have to have, I think it was 2 pairs in your ruck. But you also want to have at least one extra pair to change into, and you'll want another pair if you can, just as a backup, because for one, they're going to get dirty and they're going to get nasty. It's at least in Georgia it's really hot, and I think in most other places they have air assault, it's usually really hot. You're going to get really sweaty. Don't be like the ROTC kids that go through this and don't shower for the first 3 days or wash their clothing. So to put a little perspective on how much the cadets in this course actually cared about washing their uniforms, here's a quick quote from them. So they said, "There's no time to wash. Just pour detergent on the uniform and it'll clean as you sweat." Now, at first I thought the logic here was actually kind of reasonable, but over the course of 14 days, not reasonable. No longer reasonable. Just don't do it. Also take showers. Anyways, back to the video. Just because you can do it without getting kicked out doesn't mean you should. It's disgusting. Wash your clothes. Bring extras if you need to and you don't have time to wash. Do what you got to do. Just don't wear dirty clothes. And for me and several other people, if you end up ruining a uniform item, whether it gets stained or in my case it got ripped on the obstacle course, any reason that a uniform gets destroyed during the course, that just eliminates one uniform you can wear. So if you have an extra or maybe 2 extra, that just eliminates the worry for having to go through the course with fewer uniforms. You can make it by with the uniforms in your ruck. You can wear those. They don't have, you can put even dirty ones in your ruck, but it's going to smell bad and it's going to make everything else in the ruck smell bad. So this is just to try to avoid that. Make sure before you go, make sure you get your paperwork in order beforehand. I waited till pretty much last minute because I didn't know what to do, and we weren't given much information on what to bring. So just get it done beforehand. Don't wait till the last week, especially for us since our detachment based out of our university school. Once summer comes, half of our cadre went on vacation or are getting replaced, and so it just makes it so much harder to get things done if you wait till summertime to get your paperwork done. So do it as soon as you can, realistically. It doesn't have to be 3 months in advance if you know you're going that soon, but don't wait till the last couple weeks to get it all done. Also, double check your travel itinerary. I think I also put that as a list item for field training tips, but in this case you are allowed to travel on graduation day, but they specify what time you're allowed to leave by. So in our case, I think we got done and we're allowed to leave a little after noon, and I think they say it's usually about noon you can leave, sometimes as late as 12:31, but that's what time you're allowed to leave air assault, not what time you're allowed to book the plane. So that's what happened for me. Someone booked my plane that morning thinking, oh, it's graduation day, but you also have the ruck in the morning, and then you have time to clean your barracks, and then you have graduation, so you can't schedule that flight early in the morning. So in case you're not aware of how the days are structured, you have in-processing day, you have 0 day, then you have 3 days of phase 1, 3 days of phase 2, 3 days of phase 3, and then you have graduation day, and you do your ruck on graduation day. So that last day for graduation, you can't leave in the morning, and make sure whatever your travel itinerary says, don't let it try to fly you out before, I don't know, I'd say you should have at least enough time to drive to the airport, get checked in, get your luggage checked, get past the TSA, and have extra time to spare because things never go as planned. Bring Ziploc bags. This is a personal thing, but I think it really helps. It helps waterproof anything you need to have. So I'll get into more things what you can waterproof later, but bring all sorts of sizes for Ziploc bags. You can bring small snack size, sandwich bags, the gallon size, any size you want. I'd say bring a variety, and you'll like it if it ends up having to rain. And if not, it'll at least protect whatever you put in there from sweat. Also bring a pocket knife, preferably with scissors. You're going to need to cut a few things, and if you have uniforms that are either old, new, whatever, they usually have little strings everywhere, and you're going to want to be able to cut them with something. So bring a knife, pocket knife with scissors. When you get to air assault, find the barracks and grab a bunk as fast as you can. They fill up very fast, and there's a good chance they have more people there than they have beds, because they do not plan on keeping you all. They plan on plenty of people getting dropped or kicked on 0 day and in sling loading, so they don't worry about having enough beds. If you are one of the ones with a bed, good. If not, you get a cot. If you like sleeping on cots, then I guess it doesn't matter, but I would rather sleep on a bed. So when you get there, make sure you get a bed. If you see a bed with a plain white pillow on it and that's it, so like in this picture you can see that there are plenty of beds around, and you can see those white pillows on them. So those white pillows were there when we got there. They're not brought by other students. So if you just see a cot with nothing on it except that white pillow, take it, or ask if the guy next to it if it's taken and then take it. But don't not take it and think all the beds are taken just because they have these white pillows on them, because most likely either the training center left them there for students, or people in the past have left them there because they didn't want to have to take it home. And that's exactly how it was. There were pillows on almost every bed, and so we had people going around thinking there was no beds available. They just didn't realize that the pillows weren't other students. If you have to decide between a top bunk and a bottom bunk and you don't already have a really big preference on which one you have, some people hate top bunks, some people absolutely hate bottom bunks. If you don't have a preference as of now, some good strategies with how you pick your bed is what's around it, and what's not around it. So for one, you do not want to sleep near the bathroom. That's not a top bunk, bottom bunk thing. But if you're choosing a bunk and you have options, do not choose one near the bathroom. Do not choose one near the drinking fountain, because both will be used a lot at all hours of the night. So if you choose to sleep next to those or by the laundry room, be prepared to have trouble sleeping, because you're constantly going to have people walking by you, turning on the lights, opening the doors, using the drinking fountain, and it's going to be loud, bright, and it's just going to be harder to sleep. So try not to sleep there. With the bunks, if you have a top bunk, you can use those little cabinets as kind of like a bedside table when you sleep. So you can put stuff there, and it's kind of nice. But at the same time, if you're on the bottom bunk, you can pretty much use the floor for that. You can also, some barracks have a lot of outlets and some don't. So it doesn't really matter too much which barracks you choose to begin with, like before in-processing day, because at in-processing, they're going to assign everybody a barracks. So I would recommend choosing the best you can first, just because if they don't move you, then you already know you have something good. But if you get stuck with something bad, don't worry too much about it, because there's a chance they'll put you in the other barracks, or they're going to move other people around, and while they're moving around, you can steal a better bunk. But if you have a choice, choose one with an outlet as close to it as possible. The first barracks we had like, I want to say 4 to 6 outlets in the entire barracks, and so you got the whole everyone trying to share them. Didn't work. Second barracks didn't have that problem. Every bed had an outlet, but if you, depending on where your bed was in comparison to the cabinets, it may or may not have been easily accessible. So if you can get one with the cabinets not next to the wall, so with the beds next to the wall and the cabinets next to the bed, then you have very easy access to the wall outlets. On the other hand, if you have the cabinets next to the wall and the bunks next to the cabinet, then you have, if you're on the top bunk, it's a lot easier to climb up the side of the bed to get in. Every scenario has good and bad to it, so I have no strict like one's better than the other. Personally, I don't like being on a bottom bunk if there's someone above me, just because there's a good chance they're going to be using my bed to sit on, to lay on, to step up onto their bed, and I don't really like other people on my bed. So that's why I chose a top bunk. But if you don't mind that, or if you just like the ease of access to a bottom bunk, then I mean, bottom bunk is pretty nice in this situation. They don't make you make your bed, so you don't have to worry about which one has easier sheet folding access. If you can bring hangers to the barracks in any way, you'll have a slight advantage to your peers. I only got hangers about maybe 3 or 4 days in, because we found another cabinet that someone had left a bunch of them, and so we kind of all shared them. But if you can bring a few, it helps, because then you can put a uniform that needs to dry, or put a uniform that you're ready to wear the next day. You can kind of hang them up. They're not mandatory, and sometimes they have them already there from people that left them, but if you bring a couple, it might be helpful. But before in-processing, just be prepared to do a whole lot of nothing. They don't have anything for you to do. There's nothing you really need to be doing at this point, so you're kind of just waiting around for in-processing. So if you arrive the day beforehand, there's not much to do. I've heard that some air assaults allow you to go to the course just to kind of look at the obstacles, and I heard that in the past they've allowed people to kind of teach you how to climb a rope for like the tough one, that particular obstacle. But in our case, if there were ever black hats around, so the air assault sergeants, if they're around, they will not let you on the course because it's a safety hazard. And there's a very good chance it'll be like that other places as well. So if you can get on the obstacle course, that's something you can spend time on, just kind of looking at it and maybe trying to find new ways to navigate it. If not, just be prepared to wait around. There's nothing to do, so if you can bring something to do, like maybe a book or just download some movies on your phone, those are all good ideas. But you're not going to be doing much while you're waiting. You're also not going to have very much food to eat unless you just pack some on your own on the plane. So there are some like Domino's Pizza that people were calling for. There are some shops nearby. If you have somebody with a car, you can get food. those are some of the few options you have. There's not usually a bunch of people with cars because most people fly in. So unless you want to all share the cost of an Uber or something, there's not much for you. So if you pack food, then you don't have to worry as much, but you can also find some new friends to share some costs with of ordering food or going somewhere to get food. Note of caution here. So don't buy a bunch of food or snacks either before or when you get there before in-processing, because there's a good chance that during in-processing they're going to tell you that you cannot have food in the barracks other than when they give you like MREs to eat. There were a lot of people there, including myself, who weren't expecting this, and so we bought a bunch of food and snacks when we got there the day before in-processing, and we had to throw almost all of it out because we weren't allowed to have it in the barracks. So you can keep enough to eat before in-processing, the morning of in-processing, and maybe even enough to eat that day, but by the end of that day, it all has to be gone. So if you can't eat it all within that amount of time, don't buy it. It's just going to be a waste of money. Other than that, I'd say just go through your packing list one more time just to make sure you don't have any missing items. If you do, there's a lot of times a military surplus store or an exchange or some type of store you can get these items from last minute, and then this is your last chance, because once air assault starts, you're not allowed to leave your assigned area, so you can't go out and get it. So if you discover you're missing something now, you still have a chance. So I'd say just go through the list one more time. Make sure you fill your canteen. Start hydrating now so you don't get dehydrated later. And that's about it for before in-processing. Once in-processing starts, keep drinking your water, because there were already people in-processing in day 0 that were falling out because they were just passing out or having heat-related issues. So avoid that by drinking plenty of water. Again, be prepared to wait and have your paperwork with you, but also have your number of the NCO or commander who is back at your base, detachment, wherever you're at. Have their number on hand or email knowing they're ready to respond. If you're missing something, they give you 24 hours to get it. So it's a nice little courtesy they give you, but you only have 24 hours. So if it's Monday and they decided that they didn't want to go to the office, or something happens and they leave early and you couldn't contact them in time, that's it. So once it's been 24 hours, they can't have you continue the course without your paperwork. So have someone's number there just in case you need to call them for a paperwork issue.